Okay, welcome everyone to our first in a series of Thrive finance topics. Welcome, Joachim. It's great to have you join us.
Thank you very much.
So we're going to start with the most important item to grow. The reason we picked this topic is because recently you and I were on a call with one of our clients, and half the team thought that they weren't profitable, and the other half of the team thought that they were okay. And we learned a lot in that call. It was so interesting to see people's eyes opening up kind of once you broke down the process. So what we're going to do is talk about customer delivery, and what we're going to do a 4-step process. So this is one of 4 calls that we're going to do, and all the recordings are going to be in the Thrive community. Repeat business, we know, is the best for growth, and it requires, the top 10 efforts to make sure that you sell to existing clients compared to the acquisition of bringing in new clients all the time. So thus the quality of the work and the management of scope creep, just not making sure things don't get out of control. They're really vital for success. So we're going to go through 4-step process. Number 1 is identifying high impact projects. And that's what we're going to cover off in this particular call. And then the following 4 sessions in 2 weeks' time, we'll do resource allocation review. And the next one we'll do resource optimization strategies. And the final one will be performance tracking. And that will all be in a course, in a section inside in Thrive. So without further ado, we'll hand it over to you, Joachim. Walk us through this first part.
Thanks very much, Claude. Yeah, we'll have this as a chat together, but I'll take a lead on it for now. But as you said, I think it's super relevant when you start to understand where is my potential to grow, where do I make money, where do I maybe not make money but potentially could make money, where do I not make money and potentially should try to cut the losses and stop working. And every time you start thinking in these terms, you always come back to where does the cash flow come from? And that comes back to whatever we are managing to deliver to our clients and the invoicing following that, which means our clients. and as you said also rightly, I mean, if you want to run a successful business and create growth, the best way for growth is to have a good base that are reliant. You know the clients well, you know the profitability on those projects you're running, and you can do repeat business. That's normally 10% of the sales cost to make that happen. Even if you would have a super strong sales machine just pondering in your projects and you're not able to retain the clients, it's a very costly way to grow your business, and also a high risk of on brand images, and potentially also with sales efforts not being aligned with what your project delivery capabilities are. I think that's quite common even to see.
Yeah, and sometimes just sitting, you're going, oh, we've worked with that client for a long time. You've built up this retainer, and it's a big retainer, but you haven't analyzed the hours that are going in to deliver that work recently. You're all on top of things at the first 2-3 months of a retainer. But if we're talking month 9, month 18, it's sort of left, oh, they're happy, they're paying that amount of money. Our staff knows what to do, but you could have handed over the retainer, you could have had a new person in, and they could be not registering the hours properly, and all of a sudden you find out that the big retainer is actually not the most profitable one for you, or you could be losing money on it.
That could be one case, but also more importantly, you could also be making a lot of money and feeling super happy about it, but you have a poor ground contact where you actually might need to go in and protect that client. Yeah, because they could potentially churn. They don't feel that the value provided and the price they're paying are not aligned. So it might look green and nice in your books, but it's a potential churn and it's a high impact client. So you should really then come back to this. So what I normally try to do, or what we always start looking at, is using data. Try to have as much data as you potentially can. Yeah. Whenever you use data for some sort of analysis, the output is never better than the input you have. So therefore, I start simple, start to see what sort of invoicing do we have to the clients, how many hours do we spend, put periods in there. If it's monthly, quarterly, the more detail you can have, the better. Or even put in other type of expenses if you have subcontractors helping you through there. Then you can get sort of the top level information of such a client. So out of that data, We can gather the profitability, of course, not only in each period, but over time, and also see how it varies. And with that, we can also go into the other 3 points that you mentioned, which is resource allocation. How do we ensure that over time we have the smartest resource allocation and the whole alignment with our own processes and businesses and our culture? And then also sort of the KPI tracking. How well do we perform in terms of the client's expectations, but also internally?
Yeah. And you've got a spreadsheet template there, and what we'll do is we'll put, we're going to use this one as an example, and then I can create one and clean out some, make a template for people to download, right?
Yeah. So actually what you can do, if you, let's see if I can share that here, otherwise.
Yeah, just try there. Otherwise I can share my screen.
Share screen, desktop. It looks like I can.
Yeah, there you go.
That looks quite promising. So then I'll share the screen. So I think when I say data, you probably see, hopefully now you see my screen.
Yes.
In this case, what we say, we focus on 3 main areas to try to collect the data, even though it's limited data, just having the expenses in the project and the revenue in the project. Out of that, put together a little bit of a list where we try to define which of all our projects are high impact projects, which one, how do we use the resource allocation for that? Is it our own resources, external resources? Do we need to put our top resources that are also involved in selling, etc.? So we sort of block a lot of other opportunities. And then the financial viability, which means is the sort of profitability of the project, the revenues and the cost and the margins. And to retain a client, recurring business is always fantastic to have, but it's sometimes very difficult to get if it's not sort of a traditional marketing retainer. You can, within the more IT similar task like CRM integration migration, have a project-based revenue moving into a retainer-based revenue, being support, cleanup exercises, etc. So in this case, we took 3 months billing, May, June, and July.
Yeah.
With the hours spent each month generating a cost. So I think what we should look at here is sort of what we've done is we've taken these 3 months and bundled that revenue.
Imagining it's the whole year. Yeah.
Yeah, to annualize it. So this is a full year revenue in dollars in this case. And here we have worked with euros. So we just did the transformation to euro. So if you take client Y, it's a project-based business. It's around 331,000 euro. 281,000 euro. And here again, it's a project-based business. We're also taking the number of hours you spent during that time times the cost per hour, including a cost calculation we will go through in the next session, showing that the profitability here is around 50%, which we said was around medium. So do this on all your different projects. And in this example, we've done that on several projects. And then following that, you simply rate it here. So is this a high impact project? In this case, we said, no, this is a 3. This is a project-based client. We're not sure we're going to get a new deal. It was a one-off. It could be, so for instance, a bigger web page exercise, and they have other agencies working with already. We had really strong resources, maybe in this case. So here we use the same sort of criteria, and then we rate it from 1 to 10. Revenue, we said the revenue was 330,000. I don't recall now. We said actually the revenue was, maybe it should even be a 10. ROI, we said, well, that was a 5. This is return on investment, or the gross margin. That was a 5. Growth potential, it's a project business. It's hard to see that we can get any new business here. So we put that as a 3. Then you get an average score of 555. This is just a way to do some sort of data analysis until you go into discussion about your projects. There's no absolute truth in these figures.
No.
The other relevant part in here is this line here, if you can see this.
Yes.
And that is, when you do these consideration, the strategic and the financial viability, it's also to do some sort of weighting. So how important is this for us? Maybe at this stage, we say that revenue and ROI is 80% of our business. That's where we need to focus now. Then you just simply increase the growth, the weighting on those levels, that means that your score will be, if you have high scores here, the total score will be significantly higher because the weight is higher. So this in total adds up to 100%. So this is just how you split the rates you give. So in this case,
so just a quick one on that. So if you really liked that project and the project went really well, like you said, it's a website and it was great and it actually has a higher score, you're making a decision then to go out and get more of that business because it really suited you. So you would do a case study, you would interview the client, you would do a before and after, and you do your marketing around that so you could bring in more leads to get more of that business.
So let's say you would do this then you would probably argue, okay, so let's just argue that the high impact for us at this stage was not high, but we can see we really want to grow this client. So we put that 20% here instead, 38. On the other hand, we also see, let's say that we also set this as high because it's important for us.
Right.
Then all of a sudden you completely change.
Correct.
Sorry, I did that then right.
Yeah. You know, you had a good time doing the project. It was profitable. Everyone is enjoyable. The client was good. So then you have a profile to go out and, well, let's go and do that more and more again. We were good at it. We got a good result. The client was great.
Yeah, exactly. And I think here is, well, I think I even deleted a line here. Yeah, there you go.
Got it.
Yeah, so going back to it, so you can then change the weighting and then you get a different result. And then this is just an example of walking through client per client. And the important piece in this work, it's first, of course, as I said, the input is so relevant given that you're going to rely on your output. So if you don't have the right hours or the right revenue listed here, you might take a decision on wrong input. So be clear to focus to get that level of input right. That's why we kept it to so few things. Just the invoice you had over the periods, the hours spent, or the third-party costs. No marketing, no sales expenses, no office fees or whatever you might want to put in there. Otherwise, you might bake some of these costs in for those that are in operations in the costing of the hours, internal cost of the hours, but that we'll come back to. So if you get to this level and walk through each and every project at this case, you have a great opportunity to sit down in your management team and discuss on a client per client basis to say, is this a client we want to retain? Should we protect it? Should we try to rework the deal we had with them? Is there something in the deal that's not working? It could be the process that we work with them is not correct. For instance, I said the thing that many clients are very keen to mail things on a constant basis, which might consume lots of hours for your project team, but it could also be a way to communicate how we work with mail. So you can say, we will answer mails once a day. So we will collect everything at the end of the day and respond to everything then, and not do the sort of, as soon as I get something, I respond, and that breaks out my my hours over that I need to spend on this client.
Right. Yeah.
So when you have that discussion in the team, we really would like to come down to a situation where you cluster all your clients, all your projects in 3 clusters. One is what we call the protect ones. Those are the one where you come in green. And it could be either, as I said before, that it's a highly profitable client and it might not be the biggest, but you're making a lot of money out of it. It could be a potential churn, so you need to protect and make sure that they stay with you if it's someone you feel that it's going to continue to generate bottom line for you.
Yeah.
The other one is to act on. The first category we normally call A clients. So if you call them like, these are your A clients.
Yeah. That's
your first cluster. The second cluster would then be the B clients, and those are the ones that you need to take action on. The action can be in various forms. It could be that you need to address things that you don't have enough profitability. So there might be things in the project you need to look on your setup, on your resource allocation. You might need to look on how you work with the client, but also discuss a little bit the ownership from the client. Is it maybe a person internally that is little bit of 2 weeks sometimes. So whatever you do is not signed off. You think it's signed off, you do the work, then it goes back to their C-level or their steering committee or something and comes back, and there's several iterations. So you can maybe reduce the way to work with iterations with the client and thereby reduce lots of hours in these projects. It also comes down to your ability to move around resource allocation. Do you have the right project management and account management for that client? Maybe that's one way to act on it, that you actually change out and test if the team is the right setup. That's the sort of actions. And it could also potentially be what the purpose is with B clients, that those are the ones you want to move up to become A clients. Mm-hmm. Then you have the C clients, which is the last cluster. Those are the ones that they are not profitable. They don't have a great growth opportunity. It's not a high impact project. It's maybe not a good fit on your resource allocation. Those are the ones that normally consume lots of time for you. Long term, those are the clients that you want to get rid of.
Right.
Short term, you might want to keep them on, but you should really try to fill your funnel with clients that fit in your A cluster. So that's the other part of doing this clustering, is that you start to identify similarities. What are similarities between your A clients? Is it that you have a certain project team? Is it that there's within a specific vertical or geographic presence that they are operating in? Or are they using specific tools that are doing great success for their clients, etc.? So there's a lot of great discussions coming out of this exercise.
Nice. Yeah. How often would you do it?
Sorry?
How often would you do this exercise?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I would say maximum every quarter. It could be pretty cumbersome to do it quarterly. The more automated you can get this process and getting sort of the gross margin and revenue set up, you probably do a lot of these things on a monthly basis, or even sometimes in project you do it on a weekly basis. However, to do this full sitting and analysis, etc., it does require some deep thinking. And it also is more important to list the action and move and execute on the actions than try to do this regularly. So let's say I would propose you do this semi-annually. Mm-hmm. Do this properly with clustering in the ABC clients. You define the type of tasks that you want to execute on to move B to A, and what the task you have to protect the A, but also what tasks would you do to fire your C class.
Yeah, move them on, having that difficult conversation. Or sometimes it can go the other way when you sit down with the business and they realize that, you know, they haven't been working well with you, or it hasn't been working. Sometimes you can turn it around, but you have to have you have to have a business conversation though with that particular client and go, look, this is where we're at. And we'd like to work more with you, but if it's not possible, we'll have to walk away. But if we can, this is what's working well for other clients when they do this, and we think you can do that. You could even pitch one of those better packages to them when you sit down and have the conversation, but you can't know that until you do it.
And actually, that's a super good point. And you will be surprised, or I'm always surprised, when you go with the intention to actually fire a client. I mean, fire sounds harsh, but really to discuss with the clients we can't continue. Yeah. How the client very often turns around and saying, okay, no, I get that. I understand you